Silas Harwood stood near the espresso bar, sipping from a paper cup, lost in thought over a deal that could earn or cost him 8 figures by Friday. Then he saw her. It was as if a spotlight dropped from the sky and followed only her, walked slowly past a perfume display. But Silas didn't process the fragrance or the shoppers. He saw, Eden, and she wasn't alone. 2 boys, maybe 5, maybe 6, flanked her, each holding one of her hands. Their steps were playful, their laughs bubbling out like they didn't have a care in the world. Silas couldn't breathe. The paper cup in his hand trembled, not because of her dress or the curls or even the way her hips swayed with quiet confidence. It was their eyes, those storm gray eyes that didn't belong to just anyone. They were his. His knees nearly gave out. It couldn't be. She was supposed to be gone. She was supposed to have taken the money and disappeared. He made sure of that. 5 years ago he'd ended it, sharply, clinically, paid her off, shut the door, told himself it was better this way, safer, cleaner. He had a legacy to protect, a company to lead, a future that couldn't afford distractions. So he deleted her. But she was here, real, and so were they. His eyes never left the boys. They were reflections. One had his jawline, the other his eyebrows. Both had the same intense gaze he saw in the mirror every morning. It was like a glitch in time. Everything blurred except them. Even the mall noise seemed to dissolve around him. No boardroom, no headlines, no stockholders, just this woman, just these children, just a truth he never expected to face again. Eden hadn't seen him yet. She crouched to tie one of the boy's shoelaces, her sundress pulling slightly as she moved. He could see the soft exhaustion in her eyes, the kind only motherhood could sculpt. But she smiled. She laughed at something one of the boys said. It was the same laugh he once held against his chest after long nights. It hit him then, what he'd thrown away, what he'd tried to erase, what he never really stopped wanting. Silas took one unsteady step forward. His voice barely worked. Eden? Her head turned. She froze. He saw her jaw tighten, her back stiffen. And in that second, she knew. She knew he recognized the boys. Knew he saw the past he'd tried to pay to disappear. But she didn't run. She didn't smile. She simply looked at him with the kind of calm that comes from survival. Then she turned, reached for her sons, and walked away. No words, no permission, just her silence and 2 pairs of little gray eyes looking up at him in passing. Silas didn't move, didn't chase her, couldn't, because everything he once buried had just risen, louder, stronger, and far more real than he ever allowed himself to imagine. And for the first time in 5 years, the man who built billion-dollar empires couldn't make a single move. He was frozen, because the woman he'd once loved was walking away with his children. Hey family, before we continue, please hit that like button, drop a comment if you enjoy this story. I had to cut the full story down and go straight to the point, because you wouldn't believe what happened otherwise. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Your engagement helps us reach more hearts like yours. Now, let's begin. Silas Harwood had closed billion-dollar mergers with a glance and shattered competitors with a single word. He was used to being untouchable, controlled, composed, carved from strategy and silence. Until today, until her. The crowd pulsed around him in Union Square Mall, but all he could do was stand there like someone had yanked the floor from under him. His heart pounded in an unfamiliar rhythm, his mouth dry, chest tight. He had seen ghosts before, flashes of the past, haunting reminders in dreams, familiar perfumes on strangers. But this was real, too real. Eden Monroe, 5 years. He hadn't said her name aloud in that long, not even in private, and now it clung to his throat like a prayer too heavy to release. The sundress she wore flowed gently as she moved, white cotton slipping around her waist like it remembered every inch of her. Her hair hadn't changed, still wild and copper-toned, curling like fire down her shoulders. But her presence, it was different. He could feel it. She didn't walk like the junior associate desperate to please. She walked like someone who knew who she was, like someone who'd learned to fight without needing armor. But it wasn't just her that unraveled him. It was them, the 2 boys at her side. They were the reason his lungs struggled, the reason his palms turned clammy despite the mall's cool interior. They were the reason his vision narrowed, His world tilted. The twins. Their laughter rang out, carefree, innocent. One clutched a soft toy in one hand, the other pointed excitedly at a fountain shaped like a lion. And those eyes, those unmistakable gray eyes, his eyes. For one impossible moment, time dragged to a halt. He didn't feel the phone buzz in his jacket pocket. Didn't notice the assistant nervously waiting a few feet away with the updated investor memo. He didn't hear the barista call his name twice for a second coffee. Because those boys were his. Even before a DNA test, before a single word, he knew. Eden hadn't even seen him yet. She was kneeling beside one of them, adjusting his sneaker strap, her fingers moving with the kind of gentle practice that only years of motherhood could teach. When she looked up and smiled at something the child said, Silas's gut clenched. That smile used to be his. He took one hesitant step forward, as if pulled by an invisible thread. Just then she stood, and that's when it happened. Their eyes locked, and the world broke. Eden froze mid-motion. The joy drained from her face like a curtain being pulled down. Her lips parted slightly, barely noticeable, but her hands reflexively moved to the boys, one on each shoulder, protective, steady. Silas forgot how to speak. Her eyes didn't blink. Her posture didn't waver. He could see the moment it clicked for her. She knew what he had just realized. Knew that he had seen the truth, and that there was no erasing it this time. He tried to move faster. Maybe call her name. Maybe say something, anything. But she beat him to the next step. She turned. She didn't run. She didn't rush. But her message was clear. This was not his invitation. The boys followed her, confused but obedient. One looked back over his shoulder, eyes meeting Silas's for half a second. There was no recognition there, just the unfiltered curiosity of a child. Silas stood alone, drowning in disbelief. He had always assumed she took the check, made the appointment, moved on. That's what the envelope was for. That's what the quiet parting words meant. He never questioned it after she left. He didn't want to, because if he had asked, if he had checked, he might have had to face this sooner. Now he stood in a gleaming marble mall, surrounded by luxury and noise, completely undone by two small boys and the woman he thought he had buried in his past. His hand gripped the edge of a planter for balance. A part of him wanted to chase after her. Another part told him he had no right. The world spun, just slightly off-center. Silas had been in control his entire life. But in this moment, the control was gone. And it had brown curls, stormy gray eyes, and walked away holding the hands of his future. Eden didn't breathe until they reached the far end of the escalator. She gripped her son's hands so tightly that Cassian winced. "Mama?" he asked quietly, tugging at her. "Why was that man looking at us?" Eli turned too, his voice soft. "Did he know you?" She crouched, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "He's just someone I used to work with," she said. "No big deal." But inside, her chest was unraveling. No big deal. She hadn't seen Silas Harwood in 5 years. Not a single glimpse. Not in news articles, not in passing through TV screens. She trained herself not to react when his name came up in finance circles, ignored it whenever someone mentioned Harwood equity in public. And yet, one ordinary Sunday at the mall, trying to pick up new shoes for Cassian and letting the twins admire the Lego store window, and there he was, standing like he'd seen a ghost, looking at the boys like someone had sucker-punched his soul. She blinked rapidly, trying to shake the memory, but it replayed in brutal clarity. His eyes, the way they widened, the way his lips parted slightly like he wanted to speak but didn't know how, the way he saw their eyes, and knew, and she knew he knew. It was written all over him. The past had just collided with her present in the worst possible way. "Mama." Eli tugged her hand again. "Can we still get ice cream?" She exhaled slowly. "Of course, baby. Let's go." But she didn't walk toward the food court. Instead, she veered right toward a quiet corner with a water fountain and tall ficus plants. She sat down on a low bench, checking her phone, pretending. Her hands trembled so much she almost dropped it. She hadn't expected this. Not here. Not now. Not when things were finally starting to feel safe. Silas Harwood was supposed to be her past. He was supposed to stay locked in the vault of bad decisions, high-rise conference rooms, and broken promises. She had survived him once. Survived the humiliation of being discarded like a problem to be erased. Survived the betrayal of a man she thought, no, knew, had felt something for her. She had built a life in the ashes of that wreckage. And now? Now the very man who tried to erase her was staring at the sons he didn't have the courage to acknowledge 5 years ago. "Do you think he's mad?" Cassian whispered, snuggling closer on the bench. He looked mad. Eden blinked. "No, sweetheart, he's not mad. Not anymore. Just broken." And honestly, that scared her more. Silas had always been powerful, confident, calculated, but the man she saw back there, he looked human, and she hated that it made her feel anything other than cold fury. She shook her head and straightened. "Boys, let's do the shoe shopping first. Then we'll go get a chocolate swirl, deal?" "Deal." They chirped in unison, but as they skipped ahead toward the shoe store, Eden's feet dragged. She looked over her shoulder. He was still there. Not close, maybe 50 feet away, but watching. Not with judgment, not even with shock anymore. With something far more dangerous. Regret, and beneath that, longing. She turned back fast. That look, she remembered it too well. It was the same look he gave her the night he told her they had no future. The night he handed her a check and a cold choice. The night he said he wasn't ready. But his eyes had betrayed him then too. Just like now. "I'm not letting you near them," she whispered under her breath. Not again. This time, her life was built around 2 hearts that depended on her. There were no second chances. Silas didn't follow her. Not immediately. His feet were ready. His instincts screamed at him to move. But something in his chest had locked up. The moment Eden turned away, hand in hand with his sons, the oxygen in the room thinned. His jaw clenched. His heart thundered. He had imagined 1,000 ways his past could come back to haunt him, but he never imagined seeing his children for the first time in a mall full of strangers. He stood frozen as though any sudden movement might shatter the fragile illusion that this was real. Those boys were his. There was no question. He didn't need a test, didn't need a lawyer, didn't need a conversation. He had seen himself, twice over, in those kids. Not just the eyes, not just the tilt of the chin or the shape of the mouth. It was the energy, the calm confidence they carried. The stillness when they looked at him, it was uncanny. It was undeniable, and it made his gut twist. An assistant appeared beside him, young, bright-eyed, holding a tablet. "Sir, we need to finalize the—" "Not now," Silas snapped, eyes still locked on the last place Eden had been. The assistant paused, startled. Silas turned slowly and walked away from the espresso bar, ignoring everything. The background noise faded again, the retail clatter, the chatter of shoppers, the phone in his pocket buzzing twice. All of it became irrelevant. He passed a jewelry store, caught a reflection of himself in the glass. He looked fine, polished, powerful, the image of control. But inside, he was unraveling. How could Eden keep something like this from him? How could she carry that alone? How had he let it happen? He sat down on the nearest bench and leaned forward, elbows on knees, fingers interlocked. 5 years ago, he made a calculated decision. He told himself it was for the best. "You're making a choice for both of us," he'd said when she refused to end the pregnancy. She had cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just one silent tear sliding down her cheek. And still, he had let her go, because he thought she would come back. He thought she'd change her mind. Instead, she vanished. She had walked away because she couldn't trust him. And she was right. His mind raced back through every moment he tried to forget. Her laugh at midnight, the curve of her back under soft sheets, the way she argued in court like she was born to break barriers. And now she was a mother to his children. He leaned back, letting his head fall against the wall behind him, eyes fluttering shut. He didn't know how long he sat there. People moved around him. Someone asked if he was okay. He didn't answer, because what could he say? That he'd just discovered he had twins? That the woman he pushed out of his life had returned stronger than ever, with his legacy walking beside her? No, that wasn't a conversation he was ready for. When he finally stood again, the sun had dipped lower in the sky, streaking golden light across the atrium floor. His hands were steady now, his mind clearer. This wasn't going to be simple. But nothing that mattered ever was. Silas Harwood didn't believe in fate. He believed in decisions. And this time, he was going to make the right one. He would find her. He would face her. He would meet his sons. And he would fix this, no matter what it took. The elevator glided to the 59th floor with a gentle chime, its walls lined with brass and spotless glass. Eden Monroe clutched her portfolio with both hands, double-checking the page corners even though she knew they were perfect. This was it. Her first day at Harwood Equity Partners. The firm was one of Manhattan's most revered financial institutions, and the position? Competitive didn't even begin to describe it. She had clawed her way past Ivy League legacies and prep school prodigies to land this seat. Her resume wasn't padded with privilege, it was built with grit. Long nights, summer internships, law school scholarships, and sheer tenacity. She didn't come here to blend in. She came to make an impression. The elevator doors parted, and there he was, Silas Harwood. He wasn't surrounded by staff. He wasn't in a meeting. He stood by the corner window, arms folded across a crisp navy suit that looked like it had been sewn onto his body. His tie was perfectly knotted, and his hair had that faint silver sheen at the edges, the kind that made him look older than 39 in the best possible way. She hadn't expected him to be so striking, or present, or watching her this closely. "Miss Monroe," he said, his voice low and smooth. Right on time. Eden swallowed. "Mr. Harwood, thank you again for the opportunity. Time is the first test in this building," he said. "You'd be surprised how many fail it." There wasn't a trace of a smile, but something in his tone, curious, maybe, hinted at interest. Not flirtation, not yet. Just curiosity. "Come," he said, gesturing toward the long glass-walled conference room behind him. "We'll be reviewing the Graystar case together. I've heard you're sharp." She moved quickly, her heels quiet on the polished floor. "I try," she replied. "Don't try," he said without looking at her. "Win." Inside the conference room, the temperature felt cooler. The table gleamed, surrounded by silent chairs and a tablet set at every seat. Silas remained standing as she placed her binder on the table and opened it. "You actually printed the docket," he noted. "Everyone else here uses the internal system. I read better on paper," she replied, unbothered. "You wrote margin notes, color-coded." He blinked, and for the first time since she walked in, his mouth twitched. A near smile. "Well," he said, "at least I know you're not lazy." Over the next hour, they reviewed details, dissected clauses, and debated legal implications. Eden didn't hesitate. She didn't defer, and when Silas challenged her logic, she held her ground, respectfully but firmly. "That clause contradicts the indemnity protection," she said, turning the binder toward him. "They'll drag us in court for 8 months." Silas leaned closer, reading her notes. "You might be right," he muttered. "That's irritating." She blinked. "That I'm right?" "That I didn't see it before you did." By the end of the meeting, something unspoken had shifted. Silas wasn't just impressed. He was intrigued. And Eden? She wasn't just proving herself. She was being seen. Really seen. When the meeting ended, the rest of the team trickled in for the next session. But Silas lingered a second longer, watching her gather her notes. "Good work today, Miss Monroe. Thank you. You've got steel in you." She glanced up. "Is that a compliment?" "It is," he said. "Most people in this firm are paper. You're not." He walked away. She didn't move for a full 10 seconds. Then she smiled, just slightly, and slid her binder into her bag. Her first impression was made, and so was his. The thing about working late in a firm like Harwood Equity was that no one ever asked why your light was still on. They just assumed you were hungry for the win. And Eden was, at least at first. But something had shifted. It wasn't the cases or the climb. It was the man whose voice kept drifting down the hallway long after everyone else had gone home. The man who offered feedback without condescension and challenges without ego. Silas Harwood. It began with coffee. Always late. Always black. He'd knock once on the glass wall of her office and leave it on her desk without saying a word. She'd look up. He'd already be gone. The first time, she thought it was a fluke. The second time, she thought it was corporate courtesy. By the 5th time, she knew better. Then came the meetings. At first, he looped her into more complex litigation work, contracts meant for senior counsel, loophole hunting that usually went to trusted partners. And she delivered. Every time. One Friday night, just after 9, she stood before his desk, explaining a clause in the Ashcroft negotiation. She was mid-sentence when he interrupted. "Your voice gets sharper when you're close to proving me wrong." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "It's not a complaint," he said, leaning back. "It's just observation. Should I dull it down for your ego?" His brow lifted. Then, "Not if you want me to keep giving you real work." A beat passed. Then they both smiled. Something unspoken settled between them. The flirtation didn't come in winks or obvious lines. It lived in proximity, the way their conversation stretched beyond legal jargon, the way he lingered by her chair while reviewing documents, the way she started wearing lipstick at night, just a shade bolder than her usual, and the way he noticed. One evening, well past 10, she was standing beside a window in the top-floor conference room, flipping through a lease dispute. The city pulsed outside, alive and glittering. She didn't hear him approach. "You always this hard on real estate cases?" Silas asked, appearing behind her. She turned slightly, not startled. "I'm hard on anything that wastes our time. Remind me not to cross you." She arched a brow. "I don't like sloppy." He stepped closer, unbuttoning the top of his shirt, tie loosened. "Neither do I." Their eyes held, longer than they should have, longer than the firm's handbook would ever allow. That night, he walked her to the elevator. The silence between them was rich, charged. Neither made a move. Neither spoke of it the next day. But something shifted. The following week, he invited her to a private arbitration session in D.C. "Just you and me," he said, as if it meant nothing. She knew it wasn't just about the case. And yet, she said yes. In the car ride back from the courthouse, rain tapping softly against the windows, Eden sat beside him, close, but not touching. The driver took the long way back to the hotel. "You've changed," Silas said, his voice low. "In a month?" In confidence. She looked out the window. "Maybe I just stopped caring what people think." "And what do you think?" he asked. "About this?" She turned. "About you?" He didn't blink. "About us." They were still fully dressed, fully composed, but the tension between them was anything but. Eden didn't answer. She leaned in instead and kissed him. Eden Monroe never meant to fall in love with her boss, but it wasn't the title that got her. It was the silence between moments, the way he listened without filling space, the way he'd touch her arm just slightly when she said something brilliant. And later, after that first night in D.C., it was the way he held her in the dark like someone afraid to be alone with his own thoughts. They didn't talk much the next morning. He ordered room service, black coffee, croissants, eggs she didn't ask for but liked anyway. No small talk, no awkward tension. Just two professionals, back in suits, prepping for court like nothing had happened. Except everything had changed. The quiet intimacy between them didn't fade after that weekend. If anything, it deepened. They didn't flaunt it, didn't label it, but the line had been crossed, and they weren't looking back. Late meetings became the norm. Soft looks turned into subtle touches, and sometimes, on nights when the world outside was too loud, Eden found herself in his penthouse, tangled in sheets she'd once only imagined. But what surprised her most wasn't the heat of it, it was what came after. That's when he really opened up. One evening she lay curled against him, her cheek resting on his chest. Rain tapped gently on the tall windows behind them. She traced lazy circles on his skin. "You ever think about slowing down?" she asked. Silas let out a soft breath. "And do what?" "Live. Breathe. Build something that isn't tied to numbers and quarterly reports." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled her closer, his fingers in her hair. "My brother used to say things like that," he murmured. Eden looked up. "You have a brother?" "Had." That stopped her cold. He stared at the ceiling, jaw tight. "He died 9 years ago. Car crash. His fault. He was drunk. Hit a post on the West Side Highway. I was the one who identified the body." Eden placed a hand on his chest. "I'm sorry. He was the golden one," Silas continued. "Smart, charming. Everyone loved him. I was the serious one, the one Dad groomed to take over. But Micah? He had heart. He lit up every room." He blinked slowly. "After he died, I stopped trusting life with anything soft, anything breakable." "Like people?" Eden asked. "Like love." She didn't speak, just held him tighter, because in that moment, she saw the man behind the suits and strategy. Not the tycoon, not the boss, just a man who had learned too early how to grieve and decided never to do it again. Later that week, he showed up at her apartment unexpectedly. No driver, no pretext, just him, standing at her door. She let him in. He walked to her kitchen, took off his jacket, and rolled up his sleeves like he'd done it 1,000 times before. "I needed to see you," he said simply. She didn't question it. They ate leftovers on the floor of her living room, shoulder to shoulder, laughter soft and easy. He told her stories about the early days of Harwood Equity, about his mother's obsession with legacy and image, about the pressure to never fail. "Do you want kids someday?" she asked, not looking at him. "I don't know," he replied honestly. "Sometimes I think I do. Sometimes I wonder if I'd just screw them up. And if they needed love more than perfection?" Silas looked at her. "Then maybe they'd need someone like you." In that moment, Eden felt something shift in her chest. It wasn't just desire anymore. It wasn't just ambition or curiosity. It was something harder to define. Something she didn't want to say out loud, because naming it made it real. And real things could break. The line appeared before the timer even finished blinking. 2 lines, bold, undeniable. Eden stood barefoot in her bathroom, a hand braced against the sink, the other holding the test like it might vanish if she looked away. But it didn't. She swallowed. Hard, then looked again. Still there. She sat down slowly on the closed toilet lid, knees trembling, heart racing. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Probably Silas, texting to confirm dinner. They were supposed to meet at a new rooftop bar he liked, but she couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. Pregnant. It didn't even feel real. They'd been careful, most of the time. But one weekend in his penthouse, a holiday weekend, champagne and too many stolen kisses, caution had taken a back seat. And now, she was holding the proof of that recklessness in her palm. Tears gathered in her eyes, but not from fear. From confusion. She wasn't just a junior associate anymore. She was someone's mother now. She placed a hand on her stomach, almost protectively, even though she felt nothing yet. No symptoms. No changes. Just the knowledge that something entirely new had begun inside her. And it wasn't a mistake. Not to her. She didn't call Silas that night. She needed time. Time to think. To sort through the noise in her head. Time to figure out what this meant for her career. Her life. Her future. His future. The next day, she asked him to meet her in the conference room after hours. The same one where they'd first worked side by side. He arrived right on time. Rolled up sleeves. No tie. That quiet confidence that used to excite her, now it made her nervous. He sat across from her, leaning forward. "You okay? You've been quiet." Eden reached into her bag and pulled out the strip, wrapped in tissue. She didn't hand it to him, just placed it on the table. He stared at it. Silence. Longer silence. Then he leaned back. Expression unreadable. "Are you sure?" he finally asked. "Yes." "How far along?" "Only just." "I found out yesterday." He nodded once. Not a twitch in his jaw. Not a spark of surprise. Just calculation. "I see." Eden's voice trembled. "That's all you have to say?" Silas reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small white envelope. He slid it across the table. She didn't touch it. "What's this?" she asked, even though she knew. "Options," he said. Her fingers curled into fists beneath the table. "You're offering me a payout?" "I'm offering you privacy," he said evenly. "Protection. A future. This doesn't have to define anything." Eden's throat tightened. "You mean it doesn't have to define your life?" "I'm trying to be practical." "Don't," she said. "Don't you dare hide behind logic right now." He finally looked at her. Really looked. "Eden," he said gently, "I built everything I have from the ground up. I worked for it, bled for it. One misstep, and everything I've earned can collapse. My family, they won't accept this. Not like this." Her voice was ice. "Then maybe you shouldn't have laid down with someone like me." He flinched. "That's not what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant," she whispered. She stood, grabbing the envelope and pressing it back into his hand. "You can keep your future." "Eden." "No." She cut him off. "This isn't your decision anymore. If you keep it," he said slowly, "you're making a choice for both of us." She stared at him, then said the words that would end everything. "No, Silas." "You just made it." She walked out, took the elevator down, and didn't look back. Eden didn't cry. Not when the elevator dropped her 39 floors down. Not when she stepped into the biting wind outside Harwood Tower. Not when she reached her apartment, turned the lock, and slid the chain into place with trembling hands. She didn't cry because crying would have felt like surrender. And she wasn't broken. Not yet. The white envelope lay untouched on her kitchen counter. She hadn't opened it, not once. She didn't need to. She knew exactly what it contained. A check. Probably a number that would make most people stop thinking and start signing. Alongside it, likely a discreet business card, maybe the name of a clinic known for its silence and efficiency. A pre-scheduled appointment, perhaps. All set in motion without consulting her, without even asking what she wanted. That was the part that stung most. Silas hadn't asked. He'd decided. She stood at her window now, looking out over Brooklyn, where the skyline blinked with 1,000 indifferent lights. So this was how it ended. Not with betrayal. Not with heartbreak. With silence. With money. With a man too afraid to love out loud. The next morning, Eden arrived at the office 2 hours earlier than usual. No makeup. No small talk. Just her badge and a locked jaw. She moved through the corridors with deliberate pace. One by one, she cleared her desk. She didn't speak to anyone. Didn't explain. She didn't owe explanations to a place that had only ever measured her by what she could bill. When she walked out, she left behind the title, the prestige, and the potential corner office everyone said she'd earn within 3 years. But she was gaining something far greater. Her choice. Her child. Her dignity. Later that day, she sent a single message to Silas. I've resigned. Don't contact me again. No greeting. No sign-off. Just truth. Delivered cold, like his envelope. He read it while seated in his private office, surrounded by contracts and silence. He didn't reply. Didn't call. Didn't chase. Instead, he closed his laptop, turned his chair toward the window, and sat there as the sun faded behind towers he once believed were the only thing that mattered. For the rest of the week, Eden didn't leave her apartment. She turned off her notifications, blocked his number, and powered through waves of nausea and insomnia. She drank ginger tea in the morning, cried into her pillow at night, and Googled everything from prenatal vitamins to freelance legal work. She also prayed, not for him, but for clarity and for strength. On Thursday morning, she mailed the envelope back. Still sealed, no note inside, because he never gave her a chance to speak. Why should she give him closure? By Sunday, she was boarding a train. No return ticket. Just 2 suitcases, a battered laptop bag, and the growing flutter of something alive inside her. She didn't look back at the city skyline. She was done waiting for people to value her worth. From now on, she would build something for herself and for the life she now carried. Back in Manhattan, Silas sat alone at his dinner table. A full plate, untouched wine, a perfectly cooked steak cooling in front of him. He didn't eat. He just stared at his phone, reading the message she sent on repeat. Don't contact me again. It was the first time in his life someone had walked away from him, and meant it. And he hated how much that hurt. Savannah smelled like honeysuckle and freedom. The moment Eden stepped off the train, the weight she'd carried for weeks began to lift, one heartbeat at a time. Her Aunt Raina stood waiting at the platform, arms wide, eyes soft. You don't have to explain a thing, baby girl, she said, pulling Eden into a long hug. You're safe here. And just like that, Eden exhaled. Raina's house sat on the edge of town, a weathered 2-story home with a wraparound porch and hydrangeas that bloomed in thick purple clusters. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't fast. But it was hers now, at least until she figured out what came next. Eden unpacked slowly. First, the baby books. Then her legal pads. Then the photograph she kept tucked inside her notebook. One of her at her NYU graduation, beaming in her cap and gown, Silas nowhere in sight. She placed it face down on the nightstand. Some chapters didn't deserve to be on display. The first few weeks in Savannah were quiet. She slept more, ate better, walked barefoot around the porch in the mornings, tea in hand, talking softly to the small life growing inside her. She didn't rush into anything. No resumes, no interviews. Eventually, though, the need to create returned. She wasn't meant to stay still for long. By the 3rd month, Eden began offering freelance legal services to local nonprofits, mostly tenant disputes, immigration cases, and pro bono aid for single mothers who had no idea where to start. Her reputation grew quickly. Clients trusted her, and she was finally using her brain for something that mattered. One night, while organizing intake forms on the kitchen table, Raina walked in with a mug of hot cocoa. "You haven't said his name once," she said. Eden didn't look up. "Because he doesn't deserve it. You still thinking about him?" "I think about what he threw away." She looked down at her belly, now starting to show under her sweatshirt. "That's not something you forget overnight." Raina sat down beside her. "You don't have to forgive him," she said. "But don't let what he did make you afraid to be happy." Eden closed her eyes. She wasn't afraid of happiness. She was afraid of hope. The days blurred into months. Pregnancy wasn't easy. There were aches, nausea, and that strange mixture of exhaustion and restlessness that came with growing two lives at once. But Eden carried it with quiet strength. She read every book, ate every leafy green, talked to her belly like it could talk back. And when the kicks started, she cried. Alone, happy, grateful, and terrified. She gave birth in the spring. A thunderstorm rolled across Savannah the same night. The twins came early, but strong. Cassian first, loud, impatient, wide-eyed. Eli followed, quiet, observant, with a deep furrow between his brows that reminded her of Silas immediately. She didn't cry in the delivery room, but when they placed the boys on her chest and their tiny fingers curled instinctively around hers, that's when the tears came. Not from grief, not from loss, but from the overwhelming truth she'd done this. She'd made something good out of everything that nearly ruined her. Life with newborn twins was chaos. There were sleepless nights, never-ending feedings, and diapers she could have sworn multiplied on their own. But it was hers. Every challenge, every breakthrough, every small victory. It was hers. She got used to grocery runs with 2 car seats wedged into the cart, learned how to feed one baby with her left hand while burping the other on her shoulder, started working again, part-time, remotely, helping a civil rights firm in Atlanta from her home office. And at night, when the boys finally fell asleep and the house went quiet, Eden would sit by the window and hold their baby monitors close. She didn't think of Silas, not often, and when she did, it wasn't with longing. It was with resolve. He had missed all of this. By choice, Silas Harwood didn't talk about it. Not to his legal team, not to his closest advisor, not even to the woman who raised him. Eden was gone, and he had no one to blame but himself. But still, he didn't speak her name. He buried the truth in his calendar, in quarterly reports, in board meetings stacked so tightly that he sometimes forgot to eat. When anyone asked how he was doing, he offered a sharp nod and a tighter smile. And when they left the room, he sat in the quiet, staring at nothing. His mother noticed first. "You've lost weight," Caroline Harwood said one morning over breakfast at the family estate in Westchester. "I've lost patience," Silas replied, sipping his espresso. She ignored his tone. "That girl you were seeing, she's gone?" He glanced up slowly. "What girl?" "The one from the office. Sharp little thing, red hair." He said nothing. She set her teacup down with a soft click. Good, that was never going to last. He didn't reply, because he knew what she meant. It wasn't just about professionalism or reputation. It was about legacy, image, control. Everything Caroline had spent decades polishing into perfection. Eden didn't fit that design. Too smart, too bold, too unshakable. What Silas didn't know, what Eden never had the chance to tell him, was that his mother had found out about the pregnancy long before he did. It wasn't hard. Caroline had ears everywhere, in every department, every boardroom, every hallway. And when whispers of Eden's resignation began swirling, Caroline made one phone call. Discreet, efficient. "I need her gone," she said into the receiver. "No scandal, no press, make it clean." And within 48 hours, Eden was offered a quiet payout far beyond the envelope Silas had given her. She refused, but the message was clear. Silas never knew. He assumed Eden left because she was angry, or hurt, or too proud to stay. And maybe she was all of those things. But she hadn't just left. She'd been pushed by someone who had perfected the art of erasing problems. Months passed. Silas focused on mergers, expansion. He turned Harwood Equity into one of the most aggressive growth firms in the country, swallowing smaller funds and flipping them for profit within a year. He made headlines, graced magazine covers, was named one of Manhattan's most eligible bachelors by some tasteless lifestyle site he'd never heard of. None of it mattered. Every night, When he loosened his tie and poured a drink he rarely finished, the same question returned. What if I'd asked her to stay? He replayed the final conversation again and again. Her standing across the table, pregnant, unflinching, the envelope untouched between them, and the look in her eyes, part fury, part heartbreak, and something else, conviction. She had meant it when she walked away. He knew that now, and the silence that followed wasn't passive. It was chosen. She hadn't just left his life. She had removed herself from his entire world. Still, every so often, Silas would glance at a redhead passing on the sidewalk, or hear laughter in a cafe that sounded like hers, or smell cinnamon, her favorite tea, and feel his stomach twist. But he never looked her up, never searched her name, because deep down he believed she had the right to disappear. He'd made his choice, and now he was learning what it meant to live with it. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Phillips. If you are still here with me, if you are still enjoying this story, please take a moment to hit the like button and also subscribe, because what happens next will put you at the edge of your sit. Now, let's continue. Eden hadn't planned to return to New York. Not ever. But the job offer changed everything. A well-funded nonprofit focused on immigrant justice and community advocacy had reached out after one of Eden's clients in Savannah passed along her name. They needed a legal strategist, someone who could manage multiple case portfolios, train young attorneys, and navigate policy loopholes with finesse. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't high-paying, but it was purposeful. And Eden said yes. She and the twins arrived in Crown Heights in early September, just before the leaves started to turn. Their brownstone was narrow, with creaky floors and chipped molding, but it had a backyard and enough room for 2 small beds and a makeshift home office. The boys picked their room instantly, arguing over who got the bed by the window, eventually settling on a coin toss that Eli lost and Cassian generously renegotiated. Eden watched them from the doorway. Home, Cassian declared, arms wide. Yeah, Eli nodded. But we still need a microwave. And a dog, Cassian added. No dogs, Eden said, smiling. Maybe just a turtle? Let's start with a microwave. Monday mornings were busy. She packed lunches, organized schedules, triple-checked Eli's allergy list, and walked them to their charter school 4 blocks away. Then she rode the train into Lower Manhattan, where her new office sat inside a repurposed community center tucked between a library and a bookstore. Her first day was chaotic. Client files everywhere, paperwork from 3 counties, an intern who thought jurisdiction meant the name of the building, but it felt right. The pace, the mission, the weight of it all. Here, she wasn't defending empires. She was defending families, and that mattered. On her second week, she attended a donor meeting at the Union Square Atrium Mall, a location picked by the board chair to impress out-of-town philanthropists. Eden arrived early. She wore a navy blue jumpsuit with white sneakers and no makeup. She hadn't planned on dressing up. The meeting wasn't about appearances. It was about funding housing protections for undocumented mothers. Her mind was on the talking points, on the spreadsheet she'd reviewed on the train, not on her surroundings, and certainly not on fate. The twins came with her. It was a Saturday and their babysitter had canceled last minute. She promised them ice cream if they behaved, and they agreed without fuss, each holding one of her hands as they strolled through the marble-tiled atrium. Cassian tugged at her side. Mama, can we go look at the fountain again? After the meeting, sweetheart. Eli pointed to a kiosk selling soft pretzels. You said snacks after. Snacks after means after. Then, I'm going to hold my breath until you change your mind. Go for it. He puffed out his cheeks and turned purple within seconds before bursting into a giggle. Eden shook her head, laughing softly. She didn't notice him at first. Didn't see the man standing by the espresso bar across the hall. The man whose grip on his paper cup had gone rigid, whose entire body had stilled like the breath had been knocked from him. Silas Harwood, watching, frozen. Eden bent down to tie Cassian's sneaker, and when she stood, she felt it. That heat, that pull, that sense that someone was watching. She turned her head instinctively and locked eyes with the last person she ever wanted to see. Silas. Time stopped. His face hadn't changed. Still razor sharp, still intense, still maddeningly unreadable. But there was something else now. A crack in the armor. She saw it in his eyes. Shock, recognition, regret, and something far more dangerous. Hope. The twins noticed nothing. Cassian was spinning. Eli was playing with the drawstring on his hoodie. But Eden? Her spine straightened. Her heartbeat drummed in her ears. No, she mouthed. And she turned. She didn't run. She walked. Calmly. Quickly. With both boys in tow. Because if she gave him even a second, just 1 second, he'd try to talk. And she wasn't ready. Not after 5 years of silence. Not after he gave her a check instead of a choice. Not after she spent nights feeding twins alone with her back against a creaking wall and no one to lean on but herself. He didn't get a conversation. He didn't get a moment. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Eden. Silas's voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Firm. Controlled. Just enough to turn a few heads without drawing too much attention. But Eden didn't stop. Not at first. She tightened her grip on the twins' hands and kept walking toward the escalator. Her jaw clenched. Her pulse roared. Don't turn around. Keep going. Eden, wait. This time, it wasn't a command. It was a plea. She hated that it made her falter. Just slightly, enough for Cassian to glance up at her. Mama, it's nothing, baby. Let's get your shoes. She spotted an empty bench near a small indoor garden. The kids were asking too many questions now. If she didn't stop, they'd notice something was wrong. She sat quickly and reached for her bag, pretending to search for her phone. Her fingers fumbled. Her breath wouldn't settle. Silas approached slowly, not like a man in control, not like the tycoon who once moved markets with a press release, like someone afraid they were about to be slapped, or worse, ignored. He stopped a few feet away, close enough to speak, far enough to respect the space. They're mine, he said quietly. Eden didn't look up. No, they're mine. You left. You gave me money, she snapped. Don't twist this into something you didn't orchestrate. Silas inhaled, steadying himself. I didn't know. You didn't ask. Cassian leaned against her side. Eli stood close, eyeing Silas with quiet curiosity. Mama, who is that man? She turned to them, brushing a hand gently over Eli's curls. Just someone from a long time ago. He's not important. Silas took another step forward, slowly, carefully. Eden, please. Her eyes finally lifted, sharp, unreadable, full of restrained fire. Don't please me. You had a chance to be a man 5 years ago. You chose convenience over courage. You chose your reputation over your own blood. He swallowed hard. I made a mistake. No, she said. You made a choice. The words hit harder than he expected. He stepped back like she'd struck him. You didn't even ask how I felt, she continued, standing now, her voice low but solid. You assumed I'd do what was easiest for you, that I'd disappear quietly, that I'd erase them before they ever took their first breath. I was scared, Silas admitted. She scoffed. You command billion-dollar firms, but a woman and 2 unborn children made you scared? Yes, he said plainly. Her expression didn't change. You don't get to want them now. You don't get to want me now. I know I don't deserve anything, he said. But they're here, and I'm here, and I don't want to walk away from them again. The boys had grown quiet, sensing something serious was unfolding, but not fully understanding. Silas looked at them, really looked. Their small frames, their eyes, the way Eli stood with his hands in his pockets, mirroring his own childhood habit. And something inside him cracked. Eden saw it, saw the way his shoulders dropped, saw the change, and hated that a piece of her felt it too. They don't know you, she said, and they're happy. I just want the chance to try. You had the chance, she replied. You chose fear. Then tell me what I have to do. She turned, ready to walk away again, but something in her made her pause. Prove you're not the man who paid me to disappear. 3 days passed. Eden expected silence. She hoped for it. Instead, she received a handwritten note, folded carefully, delivered to the front desk of her nonprofit by someone in a plain black jacket who didn't leave a name. It read, I meant it when I said I want to try. I won't show up uninvited again, but I'll be at your fundraiser Saturday. If you want me to stay away, just say so. I'll respect it. Silas. She stared at the page. No dramatic declarations, no pressure. Just the truth, and a door left slightly open. Saturday arrived faster than she expected. Eden, dressed in black slacks and a forest green blouse, her curls pinned up with effort she rarely gave to appearances. Not for him, but for herself, for the version of Eden who had survived so much and built something meaningful without needing anyone's approval. She checked on the twins who were home with the sitter, then headed out. The fundraiser was being held on the rooftop of a renovated community center in Fort Greene, strung with soft lights, folding chairs and tables dressed in second-hand linens. Nothing fancy, but it was honest. It was real. It was hers. Silas arrived late. No suit, no tie, just jeans, a black Henley, and hands that stayed in his pockets. He kept to the edge of the space, listening quietly to the speeches. Didn't interrupt, didn't hover. Eden saw him near the far table, standing near a display about family reunification efforts. He was reading, not just glancing, actually reading. That unsettled her more than any confession could have. After the event, guests began trickling out. The volunteers started cleaning up. She found herself walking toward the far corner of the rooftop, away from everyone else, her tea still warm in her hand. "Thought you'd duck out early," she said. Silas turned. His voice was soft. "I told you I'd come." She looked him over. He looked different, not polished, not curated, just present. "You don't belong here," she said. "I know. So why are you here?" "Because I didn't just lose you," he said. "I lost the only version of myself I ever liked." She didn't reply. Didn't trust herself to. He stepped closer, but not too close. "You smell the same," she murmured, caught off guard by the words slipping out. His lips twitched. "Do I? You shouldn't be this close. But you haven't stepped away." Her chest tightened. "Don't play games with me." "I'm not," he said. "I don't want games. I want truth." For a long moment, neither of them said anything. Then his hand brushed hers. Light, careful, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he moved too fast. Her breath caught. "I don't trust you," she said. "I don't expect you to," he replied. "But let me show you that I've changed." She looked up at him. "One chance," she whispered. "You ruin it, and I won't even say goodbye." "Understood." He moved closer, gently. And for the first time in years, she didn't pull away. Eden arrived at the community center with her usual focus, clipboard in hand, hair tied up, sneakers on. Today was the monthly food and legal aid drive, and volunteers were already setting up tables by the curb. Folding chairs, canned goods, stacks of intake forms. Controlled chaos, but hers to manage. She was halfway through assigning case numbers when a soft murmur rolled through the courtyard. "Isn't that Silas Harwood?" Her pen froze mid-signature. She looked up, and there he was. Again, not dressed to impress, no entourage, just jeans, sneakers, and a plain black t-shirt. He was carrying 2 crates of bottled water. Eden blinked. Is he volunteering? He set the crates down near the donation tent without a word, then turned to the nearest organizer and asked where they needed help next. They sent him to traffic control, guiding walk-ins to the sign-in table. Eden watched from a distance, confused, guarded, impressed. By noon, he'd set up folding chairs, helped an elderly woman unload her bags, and spent 20 minutes entertaining a restless toddler so her mother could speak to a legal advocate in peace. He didn't look for Eden, didn't try to corner her, didn't make a single move that asked for attention. He just showed up, and worked. It wasn't until cleanup that she finally approached him. He was stacking tables behind the center, sleeves rolled, sweat on his brow, dust on his jeans. She stopped a few feet away. "You don't strike me as a folding chair kind of guy." He turned, breath steady. "First time for everything. You trying to impress me? If I was, I'd be failing. You haven't even looked at me all day." "I've looked," she said quietly. Their eyes met. Silas dropped his gaze first. "I didn't come here for show. I came because you said to prove it. And stacking chairs counts? No, but showing up does." She crossed her arms. "You've built an entire life around people showing up for you. Staff, lawyers, clients. You've always been the center of everything. You're not used to serving. You're used to being served." "You're right," he said. "And I hate that you are. That's why I'm here." "So what? You're going to volunteer your way into my life?" "No," he said, "but I'm going to keep showing up until you believe I can fit into it." The air shifted between them, not soft, but less sharp. Eden exhaled. You haven't asked about them, because I'm afraid of the answer. They're good boys, she said. Eli's cautious. Cassian's all impulse. They fight over cereal and make up over cartoons. Do they know I exist? Not really. A pause. Do you want them to? I don't know, she admitted. But I know they deserve to meet the version of you I saw once, the one who read law briefs with me at midnight and held my hand like it meant something. Silas nodded slowly. Then I'll keep showing up. He turned and walked back toward the truck, lifting another crate without ceremony. Eden stood there, still, staring at the man she once believed only knew how to walk away, now choosing to stay. And not just stay, serve. The sun was beginning to sink behind the Brooklyn skyline, casting an amber glow across the rooftop of the community center. Most of the volunteers had gone home. The last of the tables had been folded and wheeled inside. The event was over, but Eden lingered, sipping warm tea from a paper cup beneath a string of flickering lights. She needed air, and space, and silence. She heard the footsteps before she saw him. Slow, unhurried, heavy. Silas. He didn't speak right away, just stood at the edge of the rooftop, hands in his pockets, watching the city breathe. She didn't tell him to leave, didn't ask why he stayed. That said, enough. It's quieter up here, he said finally. That's the point. She didn't look at him, didn't need to. His presence filled the space like it always had, uninvited but impossible to ignore. Today went well, he added. You only dropped one crate. I dropped two. You just missed the first one. A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. He stepped closer, still giving her space, but no longer hiding. You didn't expect me to show up again, he said. No, but you didn't tell me to stay away. I wasn't sure I could. Could what? She turned to face him. Tell you to leave, and mean it. Silas's eyes softened. I didn't come to make this harder. Then why did you come? He took a deep breath. Because I needed you to see that I'm not the same man I was, that I remember who I was when I was with you, that I miss him. He wasn't perfect, but he was honest. It was lukewarm now, but it gave her something to hold. You hurt me, she said. I know. You didn't hesitate. I know that too. You gave me a check like I was a problem to fix. I was scared. So was I, she snapped. But I didn't run. He nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't deflect. Just stood there and took it. She stepped forward, close enough to see the tired lines under his eyes, the roughness at his jawline, the weight he carried now that couldn't be solved with a wire transfer or a boardroom win. Why now? Because they're here, he said. They exist, they're real, and I saw myself in them. That shook something in me, woke something up, and if I walk away again, I'll never be able to forgive myself. Her voice was a whisper. You don't get to ask for forgiveness. Then let me earn it. And what if you fail again? Then I fail trying. Silence settled between them. Then, she said, the thing neither of them expected. You smell the same. He blinked. Do I? Like cedar and citrus and arrogance. He chuckled, just once. You used to like that smell. I used to like a lot of things. She turned away, but he stepped behind her, close, not touching. You never used to walk away from me. I had to learn, she said. I had 2 reasons to. And if I asked you not to this time? She turned again, met his eyes. Then don't give me a reason to. There was no kiss, no promises, just a fragile thread of something rebuilding itself in the night air. Rain tapped the windows of Eden's apartment like it had been waiting for this moment. The twins were asleep upstairs, tucked beneath matching blankets, their nightlight casting a soft blue glow through the hall. The house was quiet, except for the sound of boiling water on the stove and the distant hum of the old radiator. Eden stood barefoot in the kitchen, pouring tea. She didn't expect him to come. Even after their rooftop talk, she figured it was over for the night. But when the knock came, soft, unassuming, she didn't hesitate. She opened the door, and there he was, again, soaked from the walk, hair damp, jacket clinging to him, eyes locked on hers like he hadn't stopped seeing her since the moment she turned away on the rooftop. Neither of them spoke. She stepped aside. He walked in. She handed him a towel. He ran it over his head once, then dropped it onto the back of the couch. You always answer the door like that? He asked, Barefoot and armed with chamomile? Yes. A smile curved at his mouth. I could leave. You could. But I don't want to. Eden looked at him. Long. Hard. Then turned and walked to the living room. He followed. She sat on the edge of the couch. He didn't. He stood in front of her. Still watching. Still silent. As if waiting for her to change her mind. Say something, she said, almost under her breath. I'm trying not to ruin this. You already did. 5 years ago. Then tell me how to fix it. You can't. She looked up. But you can start here. What followed wasn't desperate. It wasn't sudden. It was quiet. Measured. Intentional. She stood, their hands still linked, and pulled him closer. He leaned down, slowly, their foreheads touching. His hand brushed her waist. Hers slipped behind his neck. Then, finally, their lips met. It wasn't a kiss. It was a confession. Everything unsaid. Every buried ache. Every I miss you. Neither of them had dared to whisper. She led him up the stairs like she had done once before. But nothing about this was the same. They weren't the same. She was no longer the woman seeking his approval, and he was no longer the man hiding behind power. They undressed each other in silence, reverent in the way they touched. His hands moved over her body like they remembered every inch but still wanted to relearn her from scratch. She gasped when his mouth reached the scar beneath her navel, the one that brought their sons into the world. He kissed it like it mattered, like it was sacred. You didn't even know, she whispered. I know now, he said. And I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Not right now. Then let me show you. What followed was slow, sheer heat, layered over trust, woven through memory. Her back arched under his hands. Her nails scraped against his shoulder blades. And when she cried out his name, just once, low and broken, it shattered him. Again, he whispered against her skin. Say it again. Silas, she gasped. Don't stop. And he didn't. Not until they had both come undone in a way that felt more like coming home than falling apart. Afterward, they lay in the dark, her head on his chest, his hand resting gently on her thigh. No words. Just breath. Just warmth. Just the quiet truth that something had changed between them. Not erased. Not fixed. But different. Real. I should have fought for you, he murmured. Then fight now, she replied. Silas slipped out of Eden's apartment just after dawn. He moved quietly, careful not to wake her or the boys upstairs. Her breathing was slow, steady, and peaceful. She lay curled in the sheets, one hand resting on the empty side of the bed like it belonged to him. Maybe it did. Or maybe he was still earning it. Either way, he left her with a kiss on the forehead and a note on the pillow. Let me take you to breakfast tomorrow. Just us. By the time he reached the sidewalk, the sky had lightened and his phone was buzzing. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Silas Harwood. Silence. Then the voice he knew better than his own. You're making a fool of yourself. His mother. Good morning to you too, he replied dryly. Don't start with sarcasm. I know where you were last night. You've been tracking me? Not personally, she said. But you're a public figure. When you spend the night in Crown Heights, people talk. Silas's jaw tightened. They shouldn't, and yet they do. You're slipping, Silas. You mean I'm being human? I mean you're letting a mistake walk back into your life. He paused in front of a bakery, one hand gripping his phone tighter. They're not a mistake. You paid her to go away. You don't owe her anything else. You're wrong. Don't be foolish. You're risking everything for a woman who already proved she doesn't belong in our world. That's the difference between you and me, he said calmly. I'm not interested in our world anymore. Then you're no longer fit to lead Harwood Equity. That did it. His voice dropped. Steel in every syllable. If that's what this company demands, that I sacrifice my family to protect an image, then maybe I built the wrong empire. Silas, I'm done, Mother. You don't get to manipulate this. Not again. He hung up. Back at Eden's apartment, she sat at the kitchen table, staring at the note he'd left. She read it 3 times, folded it once, then placed it under her phone. She wasn't used to this version of him, wasn't sure how long he'd last, but something about that note, handwritten, humble, made her believe he might actually mean it. At noon, Silas returned. No suit, just jeans, a gray hoodie, and 2 paper bags from the bakery he'd passed earlier. I didn't know what you liked, he said. I like croissants, she replied, smirking. And choices. Then we're in business. They sat on the floor of her living room, legs crossed like teenagers, sharing coffee and awkward glances. Eli wandered down the stairs in mismatched pajamas, rubbing his eyes. He stopped when he saw Silas. Silas froze. Hi, Eli said. Silas nodded. Hey, bud, are you Mama's friend? Silas glanced at Eden. She gave him a nod. Yeah, I'm her friend. Eli looked him over. You look like me. Silas swallowed. Yeah, I noticed that too. Cassian followed, hair wild, face still half asleep. Can I have chocolate milk? Fridge, Eden said. Bottom shelf. He dashed off. Eli sat beside Silas like it was the most natural thing in the world. You have kids? No, Silas said. But I've been told I'm good with puzzles. We like puzzles. Then, I guess I came to the right place. From the kitchen, Cassian called out, There's only 1 milk. Share it, Eden called back. No. Yes. Fine. Silas chuckled. There's something else. Eden nodded. Yeah. They are. There was no ceremony, no announcement. No, this is your father's speech. Just a slow unfolding of laughter, of glances, of moments like this one, where possibility filled the space between what was and what could be. Silas had never held a child's hand before. Not like this. Not on purpose. Not with intention. Now, here he was in Prospect Park, holding 2 at once, 1 in each hand, walking between Eli and Cassian like he'd been doing it for years. The sun was soft that afternoon, the breeze gentle. Eden had suggested the outing. She didn't come. She said they needed time alone. Silas didn't argue. He didn't want to waste this chance. Cassian was full of questions. Do you know how to do a cartwheel? Not recently. Did you used to? Probably not then either. Cassian grinned. You look like someone who can do flips. Silas smirked. I'll take that as a compliment. Eli was quieter, observant. His eyes scanned the park like he was cataloging everything. A dog sprinted past. A cyclist rang his bell. Someone nearby played jazz on a saxophone, the notes floating between tree branches. Do you live by yourself? Eli asked suddenly. Silas glanced down. I do. Why? Because I made some bad choices. Eli didn't flinch, just nodded. Mama says grown-ups sometimes do that. She's right. They stopped near the lake. Cassian dropped to his knees and started throwing small pebbles into the water, watching the ripples. Eli sat beside him. Silas remained standing, hands in his pockets, unsure whether to sit or stay. He felt out of place, like a guest in a story he should have started years ago. Did you know about us? Eli asked, not looking at him. Silas knelt slowly. Not until last week. Oh, if I had known, Silas added, I would have come sooner. Did Mama not tell you? No, and that's my fault. I gave her reasons not to. The boys didn't answer, but neither pulled away. That was something. They spent the afternoon chasing pigeons, sharing pretzels, and arguing over which superhero would win in a fight. Silas found himself laughing more than he expected, even as guilt simmered beneath the joy. He bought them each a small toy from a street vendor before they left. Cassian picked a mini race car. Eli chose a puzzle cube. Silas tucked the receipts into his wallet and kept the paper bags in the front seat of the car. He didn't want to let go of any piece of this day. Back at Eden's, she opened the door before they even knocked. You're early. They got tired. Cassian stretched and yawned dramatically. We walked too much. We did not, Eli mumbled, eyes already half shut. Silas crouched and looked at them. Thanks for letting me come with you. Eli nodded. You're welcome. Cassian gave him a high five before running inside. Eden watched them disappear up the stairs, then turned to Silas. How'd it go? I didn't lose them. That's a good start. I think they like me. They're children. You brought snacks. You're halfway to God's status. He smiled. But she didn't. Not fully. You can't buy your way in. I'm not trying to. Then just keep being present. Silas nodded. I can do that. As he turned to leave, she called after him. Silas. He looked back. You don't have to do this perfectly. I'm not trying to be perfect, he said. Just better. Eden sat at the kitchen table long after the twins had gone to bed. The dishes were clean. The lights were low. The apartment was silent except for the occasional creak of the floorboards above her. But she couldn't sleep, not with the way Cassian had smiled when he told her Silas let him pick music on the car ride, not with the way Eli clutched his puzzle cube like it was treasure. They talked about Silas like he was theirs, like he'd always been there, and part of her hated how easy that transition had been. She wasn't jealous. She was afraid of what would happen if he walked away again. The boys were still young, still soft. They loved quickly, trusted easily. What would it do to them if this turned out to be temporary? If Silas got cold feet again? If his mother stepped in? If business or pride or fear made him retreat the way he did once before? Eden reached for her tea. It had gone cold. She dumped it in the sink and leaned on the counter, staring at the window without really seeing anything. She thought of the months she carried them alone. The night she woke up panicked, unsure how she'd feed 2 newborns. The moment she brought them home from the hospital with no crib assembled, just a mattress on the floor and 2 swaddled bundles who depended on her for everything. And she'd done it. Alone. She had survived. They had thrived. Now this man who gave her nothing but silence wanted to show up like he'd always been a part of the picture. She wanted to believe he'd changed. She really did. But a part of her still saw the man who sat across from her with an envelope and a practiced speech. Her phone buzzed. A text. Silas, did I do okay today? She stared at it. Simple, honest, not polished. Just real. She typed back, you did fine. 3 dots blinked. Silas, I want to keep doing better. She didn't answer, but she didn't close the thread either. The next morning, Eli asked for cereal. Cassian wanted waffles. She handed them both toast. Neither complained. As they ate, she watched them closely. Did you like spending time with Silas? Cassian nodded. He knows how to tie shoes and make jokes. Eli chewed thoughtfully. He asked good questions. What kind of questions? Like, what we dream about, what we're scared of. What did you say? Eli shrugged. That I don't like the dark. Eden looked at Cassian. And you? That I'm scared of big animals with sharp teeth, like sharks. Sharks don't live in New York. Still scary. She smiled, but her chest ached. Because Silas hadn't just entertained them. He listened. He connected. And that was harder to resent. Later that day, while folding laundry, Eden pulled one of Eli's hoodies from the basket. Something slipped out of the pocket. A small, folded note. She opened it. You're brave. That's your superpower. Her fingers tightened. She sat down, not because she was overwhelmed, but because for the first time, she realized Silas wasn't just trying to win her back. He was fighting for the boys, too. The call came during a board meeting. Silas had been listening half-heartedly to a finance manager drone on about risk models when his assistant walked in and leaned down to whisper. It's urgent, personal. He excused himself without hesitation. The moment he stepped into the hallway, his phone was placed in his hand. Line 2. Someone named Deirdre, from Savannah. Deirdre. That name rang a bell. Eden had mentioned it once, an older woman from the legal aid clinic. A mentor. Silas answered. This is Silas Harwood. Mr. Harwood, the woman said. I didn't want to get involved, but I'm too old to keep quiet when something doesn't sit right. I'm listening. I used to work closely with Eden during her time here. She didn't know I saw the mail that came in. I never opened anything, but I recognize your company's logo. I recognize the lawyer, too, someone I've dealt with before. Eden received an offer from your firm. Not from you. From someone else. Silas's chest tightened. When was this? A week after she left New York. It wasn't just a check. It was a full settlement agreement. NDAs, liability waivers, a hush clause. That's not possible. I know you didn't send it, but someone did. Someone close to you. The line crackled with silence. I thought you should know, Deirdre said. Eden never said anything. She just tossed it in the trash. Thank you, Silas said quietly. I mean that. You seem like a man trying to do right. If that's true, then start by cleaning up what you let happen. Silas didn't go back into the boardroom. He walked out of the building and called his legal counsel directly. I want every document that went through my office during the first quarter of that year. Every settlement letter. Every non-disclosure draft with Eden Monroe's name on it. That might take. Now, 3 hours later, he sat in his office with a thick folder in his lap. There it was. Not just one letter, 3, all sent from his personal legal team, all bearing his name, all filed under sensitive relationship risk mitigation, none of which he had approved. He didn't need to ask who had authorized it. The initials were right there at the bottom of the document. Shach, Caroline Harwood. His mother. He stood so fast his chair tipped backward. Glass cracked beneath his foot. He didn't notice. It was dark by the time he arrived at the estate in Westchester. His mother was sipping brandy in the sitting room, flipping through a hardcover biography of some politician she once dated. "You look terrible," she said without glancing up. "You lied." That got her attention. She set the book down. "Excuse me? You went behind my back. You paid Eden off after I gave her the envelope. I protected you. You erased her. She was a threat to everything you'd worked for. She was carrying my children." The room fell still. His mother didn't flinch. "You would have lost everything. Then maybe it wasn't worth having." She stood. "Don't say that. Not after what we built. You built it on silence, on control. I loved her, and I was too weak to say it. But you," he pointed at her, voice rising, "you made sure she never came back. She left. That was her choice." "No," he said. "That was yours." She looked at him like she didn't recognize what he'd become, and maybe she didn't, because for the first time in his life, Silas Harwood wasn't playing defense. He was done protecting the name. Now he was protecting the truth. He walked out without another word, didn't look back, didn't answer when she called after him. Back in the city, Eden was reading bedtime stories on the floor while Cassian and Eli fought over blanket space. She didn't know the storm that had just started behind her, but she'd feel its impact soon enough, because Silas Harwood was finally awake, and this time he was fighting for her. Eden stood in her hallway, barefoot, wearing leggings and an oversized t-shirt with one of the twins' juice stains on the hem. It was late. She wasn't expecting anyone, but the knock came anyway, firm, deliberate. She opened the door. Silas stood there. He looked different, not broken, not polished, just stripped, real. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Now. I have to say this before I lose the nerve." She stepped aside. They didn't go far, just the living room. She sat on the couch. He remained standing for a beat too long, like he didn't quite know how to exist in this space anymore. "Is this about the boys?" "It's about everything." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document, set it gently on the coffee table. "I didn't know she did this." Eden frowned. "What is it?" "A copy of the settlement offer sent to you, the one I never approved." Her chest tightened. "What?" "My mother authorized it. She forged my consent. She sent 3. Eden stared. "I thought it was you." "I know. I thought you wanted me erased. I didn't even know you were gone until it was too late, and when I tried to reach you, she told me you'd taken the check. I didn't. I know that now." Eden picked up the paper. "Read it once. Then again." Her hands shook. Her whole world had been shaped by that letter, by what it implied, what it confirmed. And now he was telling her the foundation had been rotten from the start. "I needed to tell you," Silas said, "not to ask for forgiveness, but because you deserve to know the truth. It doesn't fix it. No, it doesn't give me those years back. I'm not trying to erase them." He sat, slowly, leaning forward. "I want to build new ones, with you. With them. You think it's that simple? No. I think it'll be the hardest thing I've ever done." Silence. Thick, charged. Then, "They're asleep," she whispered. "You want to say goodnight?" He blinked. "Now. You came all this way." She stood, walked to the staircase, didn't wait for him. He followed. They stopped outside the boys' room. Eden pushed the door open gently. Inside, Cassian was snoring, sprawled across the bed like a starfish. Eli clutched his puzzle cube, curled into a ball. Silas stood in the doorway, hands trembling. "Go ahead," Eden murmured. He stepped in, kneeled beside the bed, placed a hand on Cassian's back, then Eli's. Soft, gentle, protective. Then he whispered, "Good night, boys. I'm here. I'm staying." Back in the hallway, Eden leaned against the wall. He joined her. They stood in silence. No rush, no promises, just the soft understanding of something new taking shape. You don't have to prove it all tonight, she said. I'll still try. Then start here, she added. Tomorrow. Take them to school. You sure? No, she admitted. But I want to be. She reached for his hand, held it, just for a moment, then let go. Good night, Silas. Good night, Eden. He left, but this time, she watched him go with a heart that no longer braced for impact. Cassian tripped over his shoelace 3 steps from the apartment door. Wait, my foot's broken. Eli rolled his eyes. Your foot is not broken. It is spiritually broken. That's not a thing. Silas crouched down, holding back a smile. Let's fix it anyway, just to be sure. He retied Cassian's sneaker with slow, steady hands. Eden leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. This was the first morning she let him take the boys to school. She didn't offer to help. She just watched. Do you have their lunch boxes? She asked. Silas lifted them from the bench. Check. Jackets? Got 'em. Permission slip? He reached into his pocket, pulled it out. Signed. She raised an eyebrow. You practiced for this. All night, he admitted. Cassian ran ahead toward the elevator, bouncing with energy. Eli stayed back. He looked at Eden, then Silas, then Eden again. Are you okay? He asked her. Eden smiled. Yeah, baby, I'm okay. Eli nodded, turned to Silas. Let's go. And just like that, they were gone. Eden closed the door behind her. Her heart beat out a slow, nervous rhythm. She'd expected to feel panic, but all she felt was peace. Meanwhile, in the car, Silas played soft jazz on the radio. This sounds like elevator music, Cassian muttered. It's Miles Davis. I like real music. Like what? Cassian grinned. Cardi B, Eli gagged. No, thank you. Silas laughed. We'll make a playlist together next time. At school drop-off, Silas walked them both to the entrance. Eli disappeared fast. He always did. Independent. Quick to settle. Cassian lingered. You gonna pick us up? If it's okay with your mom. What if it's not? Silas crouched again. Then I'll respect her decision. That's boring. Sometimes doing the right thing is boring. Cassian sighed. You sound like Mama. She's smart. She's scary when she's mad. Silas chuckled. So was my mother. Are all moms scary? The good ones are. Cassian smiled. Then hugged him. Quick, brief, but real. Bye, Dad. Silas stood frozen for a beat, then swallowed, then smiled. The rest of the day passed in a blur. He skipped the boardroom, ignored emails, walked the city for hours, not to think, but to feel. It had been years since he let himself just exist, not as Harwood the executive, just as Silas, as a man, a father. When he picked the boys up that afternoon, Cassian launched into a story about a girl who threw up at recess. Eli rolled his eyes the entire ride home. Can we get burgers? Cassian asked. I thought your mom was making pasta. Burgers first, pasta second. That's not how digestion works. Digestion is fake. Silas looked at them both in the rearview mirror. His heart ached. But it wasn't the kind of ache that broke. It was the kind that mended. That night, he stood in the kitchen with Eden. She stirred the sauce. He chopped garlic. They like you. They don't know me yet. They will. Thanks for trusting me. She didn't answer right away. Just handed him the pasta box. Don't mess this up. The dinner? Everything. 3 weeks later, the headline started. Mogul's secret family. Silas Harwood spotted with mysterious twins and former associate. It was a blurry photo, taken outside a midtown diner. Eden wore sunglasses and a ponytail, holding a juice box. One boy clung to her hip. The other tugged Silas's hand. They looked like a family. Because they were, but the world didn't know that. Not yet. By lunch, Eden's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Did you see this? Is that Silas Harwood? Girl, are you okay? Even her nonprofit's director pulled her aside. We support your right to a personal life, Eden, but the media attention could impact our funding relationships. Eden nodded, lips tight. Inside, she was boiling. At home, Silas paced the living room. I'm sorry, I didn't think. You didn't plan it, she corrected. But that doesn't mean it won't affect my job, my boys, our lives. I'll issue a statement. No, Eden, I'm not some PR crisis you get to fix. I've built this life for 5 years without you. I've kept them safe. I've kept me safe. I know that. Then act like it. He stood still, jaw clenched, hands at his sides. What do you want me to do? Nothing right now. I can't protect you if I do nothing. I don't need protection. I need respect. Her voice cut the air clean. He stepped back, nodding slowly. Okay. But things got worse the next morning. A journalist ambushed Eden outside the school gates. Cassian cried. Eli froze. The teacher rushed them inside, and Eden lost it. She called Silas. Fix this. He didn't ask questions, didn't argue. He hung up, and by noon, he'd arranged a legal cease and desist against the publication and initiated a media blackout. No photos, no interviews, no stories. By evening, Eden found herself sitting across from Silas on her fire escape, watching traffic hum below. You moved fast, she said. I promised I'd fight. It shouldn't have taken a meltdown for you to act. I'm still learning. She looked at him. Really looked. He looked tired, worn, like a man who'd tried for once to carry something heavier than money. You did the right thing, she admitted. Doesn't feel like enough. It's a start. He pulled a small velvet box from his coat pocket. Not a ring, a locket, silver. Inside, 2 tiny photos, Cassian and Eli. I had it made. Eden didn't speak. It's not about me. It's about remembering what I almost lost. He handed it to her. Their fingers brushed. Thank you, she whispered. Later that night, after the boys fell asleep, she opened the locket again and cried, not from pain, but from the terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, this man wasn't trying to own her story. Maybe he was trying to write a new one with her. The boardroom at the nonprofit was silent. Eden sat at the far end of the table, hands folded, spine straight. Across from her were the directors, some she'd known for years, others new. All of them looked uncomfortable. Finally, Marlene, the chairwoman, cleared her throat. Eden, this isn't a reprimand, but the attention you've received lately, it's affecting our public image. I didn't invite the press. We know. But perception is reality. So what are you saying? Marlene sighed. We're asking you to take a leave, just a few weeks, until things quiet down. Eden felt her chest tighten. She'd worked tirelessly for this organization. Late nights, unpaid hours, sacrifices, and now she was being pushed aside, not for what she did, but for who she was connected to. I understand, she said flatly. She stood, gathered her things, and left the room without looking back. Later that night, Silas came over with groceries. He found her sitting on the couch, unmoving. They suspended me, she said. He froze. Why? Too much attention, too many headlines. That's not fair. It's life. He sat beside her, quiet. For once, not offering solutions, just presence. After a while, she looked at him. What are we doing, Silas? We're trying to be what? Better. Together. Is that enough? He met her eyes. If it's not, I'll keep trying until it is. Silas stood and walked into the kitchen. When he returned, he carried a small binder. What's this? A trust. For the boys. Eden opened it. It was everything. College, healthcare, safety nets. You're putting this in my name? You're the only one I trust to do right by them. No strings, no expectations. She looked up, stunned. Why? Because if you decide I don't belong in your life, I still want them protected. Her throat tightened. You're giving me a choice. Finally, the silence stretched between them like thread pulled taut. Then she whispered, Stay for dinner. He smiled softly. Yeah? Yeah. That night, while the boys built blanket forts in the living room, Eden cooked. Silas chopped vegetables at the counter. No cameras, no headlines, no pressure, just peace. After the twins fell asleep, Cassian half buried under pillows, Eli holding a flashlight, Eden stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker. Silas joined her. You okay? She turned to him, slowly, carefully. Then she kissed him, not desperate, not explosive, but certain. I'm not promising forever, she said. I'm not asking you to, But I'm saying yes to this, to now. Silas rested his forehead against hers. Then I'll earn every tomorrow. The envelope arrived on a Thursday, unmarked, no return address. Hand-delivered. Eden found it wedged between a children's drawing of a dinosaur and a water bill on the kitchen counter. She might have ignored it, had it not been for the handwriting. Delicate, sharp, controlled. She opened it. And read. Eden, I am not writing to ask for your forgiveness, nor your approval. What's done is done. You made your choice to raise those boys in secrecy, and Silas has made his to welcome you back into his life. But let me be very clear. I am not part of that decision. I was not consulted. I was not warned. Silas is not just a man. He is a legacy. And you are a disruption. I will not fight you. I have no need. Time does that for me. People like you burn out. People like him regret. For his sake, I hope I'm wrong, but I rarely am. Genevieve Harwood. Eden sat at the dining table long after the kettle stopped whistling. The boys were napping. Silas was at the office, and she was holding a grenade disguised as a letter. Later that night, when he returned, she didn't greet him with a kiss, didn't ask about his day, just handed him the envelope. Your mother wrote me. He scanned the letter once, then again, then slowly placed it on the table. I didn't know she'd do that, but she did. She doesn't speak for me, but she thinks she does. Silas pulled out a chair, sinking into it like he'd aged 5 years in 1 minute. She thinks I'm an extension of her reputation. You didn't deny that 5 years ago. I'm not the same man, but she still has access to your life. To ours. He looked up. I can cut her off. No, Eden said quietly. Don't do that. Why not? Because I don't want this to be about choosing sides. She's trying to scare you. She succeeded. Then, let me fix it. No, Eden repeated. You don't get to silence women anymore. Not her. Not me. Silas nodded. Slow. Steady. Then what do you want? I want to know that you'll stand by me even if she doesn't approve. You already have that. Do I? You do. She stepped closer, placed a hand over his. Then, show me. Don't just say it. He looked her dead in the eyes. She won't come between us again. That night, Eden tucked the letter into a drawer, not out of denial, but control. This wasn't a threat. It was a reminder of what she'd already survived, and how much stronger she was now. It started with a phone call. A junior analyst from Harwood Equity, panicked, out of breath. Mr. Harwood, there's been a breach. Of what? Internal documents. Someone leaked merger terms to competitors. Silas was already grabbing his keys before the analyst finished. Contain it. I'm on my way. He kissed Eden on the forehead without explaining. Emergency. Don't wait up. Is everything okay? I'll call you when I know more. At Harwood Tower, chaos reigned. Board members gathered in the war room. Security footage played on a loop. Legal counsel spoke in rapid-fire bursts. Silas sat at the head of the table, face carved in stone. The leak was real. Sensitive merger details had landed on a rival's desk. Stock prices were reacting. Investors were questioning leadership. Someone had access. Someone on the inside. He stayed until dawn. When he returned home, Eden was asleep on the couch, one twin curled beside her, the other on the floor wrapped in a blanket. Silas didn't wake them. He just sat in the dark, staring at nothing. Later that morning, his assistant delivered the report. Password logs, file timestamps, download trails, and one name highlighted in red. Ethan Monroe, Eden's younger brother, a freelance IT technician, hired months ago for back-end upgrades at Harwood's Midtown office. Silas's blood turned to ice. He called Eden immediately. She answered on the second ring. Hey, everything all right? He hesitated. I need to talk to you, now, privately. She met him at the cafe on Flatbush, neutral ground. He slid the report across the table. She read it slowly. Twice. Her hands trembled. No, she whispered. He wouldn't. Eden. He wouldn't do this. Not to me. Not to you. His login was used. Then someone used him. You sure about that? She looked up, eyes glassy. Yes. She called Ethan that night. He didn't answer. She left 5 voicemails. Silas put out a quiet investigation request. No police yet. Not until they had proof. 2 days later, Ethan called back. From a blocked number. Eden, I'm sorry. What did you do? I didn't mean to hurt you. You leaked confidential files. I needed money. So you sold out my children's future? It wasn't supposed to get traced. They said, who said? Silence. Then he hung up. Eden collapsed to the floor, breath gone. Silas caught her before she hit the tile. I trusted him, she whispered. So did I. They sat on the floor for a long time, her head on his shoulder, his arm wrapped around her back, not speaking, not thinking, just breaking, quietly, together. That night, Silas made a choice. He held a press briefing the next morning. No lawyers, no deflection, just truth. There has been a breach in our internal data. The individual responsible has been identified and terminated. Steps are being taken to protect all stakeholders, and I take full responsibility for hiring oversight. He stepped off the podium, walked straight to Eden, and took her hand, in public. In front of cameras, the headlines shifted, not about scandal, but about accountability and love. The apartment was silent, the kind of silence that settled heavy. Eden sat on the living room floor, surrounded by toy trucks and scattered picture books, staring at the muted television. Silas had just walked in. He shut the door quietly behind him. Neither of them spoke right away, until he said softly, I did what needed to be done. She nodded, but didn't look at him. You did more than that. Are you angry? No. Then what are you? Exhausted. He sat beside her, legs crossed. I didn't want the world to see me like that. And yet you stood there, in front of cameras, admitting fault for something you didn't do. It wasn't about fault. It was about owning what I allowed to happen. That's more than I ever expected. She turned to him slowly. Tears glistened, but didn't fall. All my life I've had to protect myself. From men, from systems, from judgment. I know. Even when I loved you, I never really let myself rest. Not completely. I gave you every reason not to. And still, you came back. Her voice broke there. So did her composure. Tears fell. Slow, steady. He pulled her close. Held her until the shaking passed. You asked me once what I wanted, she whispered. Yes, I want to stop bracing for impact. Then don't. I want to trust that what we have won't collapse. It won't. I want to believe that you see me, not as a weakness, but as someone who makes you better. Silas tilted her face up to his. You are the reason I'm not a ghost in a suit. Say it again. You make me better. He kissed her, deeply, firmly, not as apology, not as seduction, but as a man reclaiming his place, not just in her heart, but in his own life. That night, they undressed in silence. The kind of silence that held reverence, not restraint. Every touch was slow, measured. Her fingertips trailed over his shoulder. His lips traced the scar near her hip. He whispered his vows into her skin, and she let him in, all the way. No hesitation, no hiding. Afterward, she curled against him, head on his chest. Are we insane? She murmured. Absolutely. Is this real? It's as real as my next breath. Then promise me one thing, anything. Don't let me wake up alone again. You won't. He kissed the top of her head, and meant every word. It was a Tuesday morning when Silas walked into the courthouse. No security entourage, no polished PR team. Just him and his attorney. The press had tried to follow, but Eden had made her boundaries clear. This was not for headlines. This was for the boys. Inside the family division chamber, it was quiet. Eden sat at the far side, the twins nestled beside her. Cassian's fingers tapped against her palm rhythmically. Eli clutched a small plush dinosaur. When Silas entered, their faces lit up. Daddy, Eli blurted, without thinking. It was the first time he had said it aloud. Silas froze. So did Eden. Her eyes misted, but she smiled. Come sit, she said softly. He did. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a calm gaze and strong voice, looked over the documents once more. Mr. Harwood, you understand the implications of this filing? You are requesting full legal paternity acknowledgement, joint custody rights and all financial obligations to the minors? Yes, Your Honor. And Ms. Monroe, you consent? I do. Do the miners know what this means? Eden nodded. In their way, yes. Do they understand who this man is? Cassian spoke up. Penty's our dad. Simple. Certain. The judge smiled faintly. Very well. Based on the mutual agreement and verified DNA testing, the court recognizes Silas Harwood as the biological and legal father of Cassian and Eli Monroe. A pause. And by mutual request, they will now carry the legal surname, Monroe Harwood. Eden looked at Silas, startled. He squeezed her hand. They don't just belong to me, he murmured. They belong to you. To us. The court clerk handed over the amended birth certificates. Eden held them like they were fragile artifacts, new documents etched with truth and healing. Outside, the cameras waited. Silas shielded the boys as they exited. But one reporter pushed forward. Mr. Harwood, why now? Why claim them after 5 years of silence? He turned, steady and unapologetic. Because I made a mistake. And you think this fixes it? Nothing fixes the past. But I can choose to be better every day moving forward, and that starts with being their father. He turned back to Eden. And her partner. That evening, Eden hung the new certificates on the wall beside their artwork, not as trophies, but as proof of love earned, of legacy rewritten, of a name made whole. The Harwood boardroom had never been silent. Until now. Silas stood at the head of the long glass table, not in a suit, not flanked by lawyers, but in rolled sleeves and steady breath. Across from him sat 12 members of his company's board, old names, old money, old expectations. You've built this company into an empire, one man said, adjusting his tie. And I intend to rebuild it into something better, Silas replied calmly. We're not in the business of charity, another woman added. No, he agreed. We're in the business of impact. And impact means nothing if it doesn't outlive us with meaning. He placed 2 documents on the table. One was a restructuring plan. The other, a leadership transfer outline. I'm stepping down as CEO, effective in 3 months. Gasps. A pause. Shock. You're handing over control? I'm not handing it over. I'm evolving it. The company will continue under new leadership with revised ethics, accountability measures, and a human-centered vision. We will invest in causes that matter, in lives that matter. The board murmured, unsettled. But Silas stood firm. He wasn't asking for approval. He was giving them notice. Later that evening, Eden sat across from him at their kitchen table, watching him sign the final resolution. You're really doing it, she said. I already did. Are you scared? Only of not spending enough time with you. She smiled, pulling his hand across the table. You're not who you used to be. And you're the reason why. At the same time, Eden was making her own moves. Her nonprofit had expanded, offering legal aid and education to immigrant families across the 5 boroughs. She no longer stayed in the background. She gave keynote addresses. She joined advisory boards. She helped rewrite bills. And when asked how she found the courage, she answered honestly, by walking away from a man who didn't see me and choosing to return when he did. On a rainy Thursday, they stood side by side at the ribbon cutting of a new community center, funded by Silas's redirected investment arm, now focused on underrepresented families and underserved youth. Cassian held the scissors. Eli held Eden's hand. Silas spoke briefly. This isn't redemption, it's responsibility. And this, Eden added, voice firm and clear, is how legacy begins. The mornings were different now. No alarms blaring from luxury penthouse suites. No cold coffee on mahogany desks, just sunlight streaming through gauzy curtains in a Brooklyn brownstone, and the sound of twin feet pattering down the hallway. Daddy, Eli took my shark book. Did not. Did too. Silas groaned, pulling the covers over his face. Eden, already in her robe, leaned over him with a smirk. You wanted fatherhood. You got it. Can I at least negotiate quiet hours? Not until they're 18. By 8:15, breakfast was chaos. Pancakes, missing socks, cartoons competing with the morning news. But in the middle of it all, Silas found clarity. Eli tugged on his sleeve, mouthful of syrup. You're not going to the office? Nope. Why? Because this is more important. He ruffled Eli's curls. After drop-off at school, Eden walked beside him down the block. No heels, no briefcases, just fingers laced together. Silas paused outside a florist. Wait here. He returned with a bouquet of sunflowers. For what? She asked. For every morning I never brought you one before. She blinked back tears. You keep doing this. What? Reminding me why I came back. That night, after dinner and story time and toothbrush negotiations, the house was still. Silas joined Eden on the couch. She was in his hoodie, legs curled beneath her. So, he said, kissing her shoulder. Want to watch a movie? Too tired. Want to talk about our feelings? She laughed. You first. Okay, he said seriously. I think I'm in love with a woman who's far too beautiful to be human. I think I'm in love with a man who eats half his kids' snacks when they're not looking. I'm claiming survival instincts. She laid her head on his chest. We did it, didn't we? We're doing it. Silas placed a hand gently over her stomach. The smallest swell had begun to show. I can't wait to meet her, he whispered. Me neither. What if she's nothing like us? Then she'll be everything we didn't know we needed. Cassian's voice called faintly from upstairs. Mom? I had a dream. Eden stood, groaning. Your turn tomorrow night, she warned. Deal. Silas watched her disappear down the hall, watched her crouch beside their son's bed, watched her tuck in the boy they made, the life they rebuilt, and in that quiet moment, he understood something for the first time. The delivery room wasn't chaotic, not like the first time Eden had given birth, alone, scared, with her aunt outside, and no one holding her hand. This time, Silas never let go of her. He held her through every breath, every push, every cry. And when the baby's wail finally filled the room, the doctor smiled. You have a daughter. Tears spilled from Eden's eyes as they laid the baby against her chest. Tiny, warm, real. Silas stood frozen, stunned by the sight. She's so... I know, Eden whispered. She's everything. They named her Seraphina Rose. Cassian and Eli met her 3 days later. Eli blinked at her. She's wrinkly. Cassian peered closer. She smells like apples. Eden laughed, tired and glowing. She smells like love. Weeks passed. Their brownstone was louder, busier, fuller, diapers on the dryer, bottles in the sink, twins running through the hallway yelling dinosaur facts. And Silas? Silas fell harder than he ever had. Every time Seraphina curled her fingers around his thumb, every time Eden walked into a room, cradling their daughter like she was born to do it all. One afternoon, Eden sat on the porch, rocking Seraphina in her arms, watching the boys race across the lawn with toy swords. Silas stepped out, coffee in hand. You know what today is? He asked. Tell me. 5 years since I watched you walk away. Feels like a lifetime ago. Feels like yesterday. And yet, here we are. She looked up at him. Are you happy? More than I thought I deserved. You earned this. You gave me the chance to. He knelt beside her, pressed a kiss to her temple. I love you. I know. The front door creaked open. A delivery man stood on the stoop, holding a small envelope. For Mrs. Monroe Harwood. Eden took it, curious. Inside was a handwritten note from the judge who'd handled their custody case months ago. I don't often send letters, but today I felt compelled. Watching your family reminded me why I do this work. The world needs more stories like yours, messy, honest, redeemed by love. Never forget, your strength changed more than your own life. Eden held the letter to her chest. That night she tucked it inside a photo album, one that held the boys' first drawings, Silas's newspaper headline declaring their union, and now, Seraphina's birth announcement. She closed it softly, whispered to herself, We made it. As moonlight pooled across the nursery floor, Eden stood at the window holding Seraphina. Silas wrapped his arms around her from behind. She looks like you, he murmured. She looks like us. Below them, the twins' laughter echoed in their dreams. And in that quiet, sacred stillness, Eden breathed fully for the first time in years. Not as the woman who was left behind, not as the mother who fought alone, but as the woman who found her way home, with everything she never stopped believing she deserved. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, don't keep it to yourself. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe in second chances, even after everything seems lost? Tap the like button if you believe love deserves to be fought for. And if you want more stories filled with emotion, redemption, and lessons that stay with you, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Here on Love and Twilights, every story has a soul, and every soul deserves to be heard.